Everyone took family photos after graduation, except me. I noticed it the second I stepped outside the gym. The doors swung open, and everything came rushing out at once. Cheering, laughter, people yelling names across the parking lot like they were afraid to lose each other. Balloons bounced in the air. Cameras flashed nonstop. Someone's mom was crying so hard she had to lean on her husband just to stand up. And then there was me, standing there in my cap and gown, diploma folder tucked under my arm, scanning the crowd even though I already knew what I wasn't going to find. No mom running toward me with tears in her eyes. No dad clapping too loud. No aunt waving a phone, yelling, "Over here, just space." I stood near the edge of the sidewalk, pretending to check my phone, like I was waiting for someone who was just running late. That's what you do when you don't want anyone to know you're alone. You act busy. I watched classmates get pulled into group hugs. I watched dads straighten caps and moms fix collars like they'd been waiting their whole lives for this moment. I watched siblings climb onto shoulders. I watched families line up in front of banners that said Class of 2024, like this moment had always belonged to them. I tried not to stare, but it was impossible not to notice how loud happiness looks when you're not part of it. After a few minutes, my chest started to feel heavy. Not dramatic, just tight, like something was pressing down slowly, quietly, and I didn't know how to shake it off. So I did what I've always done. I left. I walked past the crowd, past the balloons, past the photographers calling out poses, and kept going until I reached the far end of the parking lot, where almost no one parked. I unlocked my car, climbed inside, and shut the door a little harder than I meant to. The noise cut off instantly. No cheering, no laughter, just silence. I tossed my cap onto the passenger seat and rested my forehead against the steering wheel. I wasn't crying. I didn't feel like crying. I just felt empty. This was supposed to be a big moment. Everyone said so. Teachers, counselors, posters in the hallway telling us graduation was the beginning of everything. But sitting alone in my car, watching families pose for photos through a dusty windshield, it felt like the ending of something I never really got to have. People talk about graduation like it's a reward, like if you survive 12 years of school, everything magically lines up at the end. Family shows up. Pride fills the air. Cameras capture proof that you mattered enough for someone to come celebrate you. Nobody talks about what happens if no one comes. I'd sent the invites weeks before, 3 of them. One to my mom's last known address, the halfway house she'd been staying at before she stopped answering calls. One to my dad's old place. I didn't even know if he still lived there, but I sent it anyway. Habit, I guess. And one to my aunt. She'd taken me in once, long enough to make me believe she might show up for this. I didn't tell anyone at school. I wasn't sure if anyone was coming. When people asked who would be there, I smiled and said vague things like, "Yeah, my family might make it," then changed the subject. Hope is stubborn like that. Even when you know better, it sneaks in. So when graduation day came, I still checked my phone before the ceremony, still scanned the crowd afterward, still waited longer than I should have. And when it became clear, really clear, that no one was coming, it didn't break me. It just confirmed something I'd already learned. I wasn't anyone's priority. I learned how to be alone early. My dad left when I was 6. One day he was arguing with my mom in the kitchen. The next day, his side of the closet was empty. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. After that, it was mostly me and my mom. And some days, not even her. Pills at first, then whatever she could get her hands on. By 13, I was cooking my own dinners and setting my own alarm. I got really good at not needing much, at not asking questions, at not expecting answers. Teachers asked why I was tired. I said I stayed up studying. Friends asked why I never had people over. I laughed it off. You learn fast that disappearing is easier than explaining. At 15, I got a job at a grocery store. Late nights, weekends, under the table. I told myself it was for spending money. But really, it was somewhere to go that wasn't home. When my mom got arrested again, I moved in with my aunt. She called it temporary. She barely looked me in the eye. When I turned 17, I rented a room from an older woman who didn't ask questions as long as the rent showed up on time. School was the only place I felt even halfway visible. I wasn't popular, but I showed up, and sometimes showing up is the hardest thing there is. Inside the gym, everything looked normal. Rows of folding chairs, a stage draped in school colors, families packed shoulder to shoulder. When my name was called, I stood up and walked across the stage. I shook hands, smiled for the camera, accepted my diploma. Applause followed, but it wasn't for me. It was just part of the noise. I glanced out at the crowd anyway. No one stood. No one waved. No camera pointed my way. I walked off the stage and didn't look back. Back in my car, I unwrapped a fast food burger I didn't want and ate it anyway. The fries were cold. The radio played something soft, but I wasn't listening. I stared at my diploma folder like it might explain why this still mattered. And that's when there was a knock on my window. I jumped, dropped the fries, looked up. It was Principal Monroe, still in his graduation robes. Cap crooked, expression calm. "Mind if I sit for a minute?" he asked. Before I could answer, he opened the passenger door and folded himself inside like he'd done it 100 times. We sat there in silence. "I noticed you didn't stay for photos," he said finally. I shrugged. "Didn't really have anyone to take them with." He nodded. "I skipped my graduation reception too." That surprised me. "My parents were mid-divorce," he said. "They argued through the whole ceremony. I went to the library afterward and sat between the shelves for 3 hours. Then he looked at me. "Jessica, I know your story. I know what it took for you to be here. I tried to brush it off. "It's not a big deal." "It is," he said gently. Then he started naming names. Miss Keller staying late every Tuesday. Coach Ramirez letting me use the gym showers. Miss Lorna slipping extra food onto my tray. Miss Franklin giving me a key when I had nowhere to sleep. "You weren't invisible," he said. "You just didn't have the kind of support that shows up in photos." Then he handed me an envelope. Inside was a card signed by teachers, staff, counselors, messages everywhere, and a small check clipped inside. "We believe in you," he said. "Don't waste it." For the first time all day, my throat tightened. An hour later, I walked into a diner and slid into a booth with the same people who had quietly shown up for me all along. No balloons, no banners, just warm lights, greasy fries, and laughter. And sitting there, I realized something. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's the people who notice when you disappear. And that night, for the first time in my life, I wasn't alone.